Welcome to the B Sound Podcast. It is 10/15 of 2021. We're in the middle of October. Thank you again for being here. It is Friday, end of the week, and it's time for the podcast. So what do we got for you this week? Well, I know I always say this, but this is going to truly be a really short one. If it goes over 10 minutes, I'll be shocked, right? But it may be short, but it's going to be powerful, or at least the most controversial take I've ever had. Now, what could this take be? As a musician or as an artist, there's something that we are afraid of, at least most people. And I would say that is plagiarism, right? There's so many artists that I know who will write a song and then they'll be like, and they'll doubt themselves. And it's like, what's wrong? Why are you doubting yourself here? Oh, you know what? It sounds too much like this band that I like. Oh, is that it? And admittedly, I've had people get angry at me for writing songs that sound way too much like another song from another band. And that could happen, but there's a difference between being inspired by something and flat out ripping it off, right? And we'll get to, and it's not so much that people were upset that I was inspired and I guess in some ways ripped off this song, but it's the way you go about it, right? And we're going to get to that. We're going to get to why it's okay to bring very close inspiration into your own art. It's fine. It really is. And there's things that can back it up. Like we all know already that artists over the years have been getting sued for creating something that sounds like something else, right? Off the top of my head, I can think of two cases. One, My Sweet Lord by George Harrison became a big hit, and it turns out that maybe he ripped it off from a song called He's So Fine. And if you listen to the two, you can hear the similarities. George always claimed it was like subconscious. And he got sued for it. And we'll get back to that. And another one that I can think of offhand is Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, with the song Come As You Are. Listen to that and go listen to a song called Eighties by Killing Joke. The riff is fairly similar. The speed is a little different, the tempo is different, but the riff is fairly similar, and I believe Nirvana got sued for that. Maybe they settled out of court, if I remember right. So, people are scared. And I would say people are scared not only because they're afraid they're going to get sued, but there's this feeling of, hey, if I do something that's similar to someone else, people will find me disingenuous. And I get that fear. And I've had that fear. And here's where I made my mistake, right? There was a band I was in called Sunformer. And the song in question was a song I wrote called Pink Ovals. Now, I had written this song, and it was very much inspired by a song by Jester Brazil. I can't remember the name of the song right now. But it was on that first album that they did. And I brought it into the band. I was just heavily into Jester Brazil at the time, but I brought it into the band, just said, here's a song I wrote, and we worked on it and built it up, and it became a staple of our set. And one day, someone had I wasn't around, but a couple of the guys in the band were hanging out, and someone put on that record by Just Brazil, and they were like, hey, this sounds an awful lot like the song Dan brought in, Pink Ovals. And the more they listened to it, they're like, fuck, he really ripped this off. And it caused a huge rift in the band. They came to me and like, what are you doing? And I was like, what? I wrote this song. Maybe it was a tribute to these guys, but it's my song. You know, because basically what I had done was I liked the way the song was structured. So I structured a song very similarly to that song. I didn't use the same chords. I didn't use the same notes, but I took that structure and really kind of, you know, where it's like the verse was 2 chords played at, you know, a certain rhythm, like Janet, 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 and like, so, and then I put my own kind of melody over that and just built a song that way where, you know, then the chorus might have been 3 chords. I don't really remember how the song goes, but so, and if you listen to them on top of each other, yeah, they're pretty similar. And I never knew how, it was kind of an experiment on my part too, to see like, hey, if I brought a song in that was kind of similar to someone else's song, but no one had ever heard it, would people even know? Would it be like a known thing? And apparently it was. Apparently they noticed, and it caused a huge rift in the band. And, you know, a couple people in the band were like, this is bullshit, right? And a couple people were like, oh, this is Dan's song. Like, it's obviously very Dan. If you know Dan and know his writing, these melodies he came up with here, these words are totally him. And it got to the point where basically the band almost broke up over it. There was a lot of other issues in that band as well, but it was a big deal at the time. And so this is a side note, I decided, hey, I'm going to go ahead and write, and this will come up, by the way, in a minute here, but I decided I was going to write to the author of the song that the song was inspired by, and see if he gave a shit, right? So I wrote to Blake Schwarzenbach, who wrote the song for Jets to Brazil, and I said, dude, this song was inspired by this song of yours, and I was wondering if you could listen to it. If you're offended by it, we'll never play it again. You know, I just wanted to be courteous to him. And really, he never got back to me, never said anything, you know, and I sent him the song, I sent him the letter. It was pretty heartfelt. I don't know if he ever even got it, but there was no response. And I let the guys know this, and who knows if they believe me or what happened, but that's basically where it got left. We just ended up leaving the song behind and never played it again. It's recorded. I've got a recording of it. It's pretty good recording. But so let's get back to things you can do and why it's okay to go ahead and be inspired by these songs and don't make the mistake I did. So, well, let's say you did write a song and it sounds like someone else. Well, first of all, when you put this song out, and with anything you do, give credit where credit is due, right? You want to, you know, present the song, and if someone calls you out on it, or you can even jump ahead of it and say, hey, this song means a lot to me. It was inspired by such and such a thing. And you tell them why that song inspires you and, you know, how you fit that into your song and what you did differently, right? So those things are important. Tell them who inspired you, why it's inspiring, and what you did differently to make it your own song, right? And that's basically, you want to be honest. You want to be authentic with it. And I think when you do that, you're bound to be much more respected. People aren't going to find you disingenuous because you're telling them right away, like, oh my God, I'm a huge fan of the Smashing Pumpkins, and that's why this song sounds like the Smashing Pumpkins. At least this little bit right here. You know, be honest about it, right? And then if, let's say you did write that Smashing Pumpkins song, and the song that you wrote got big enough to where someone like the Smashing Pumpkins takes note, right? And they're like, hey, this is bullshit, you know, and maybe even go ahead and sue you. Well, I think that if that happens and you've already been really been genuine about it, you're already ahead of the game, right? By letting people know, hey, this song was inspired by this. So if they're suing you about it, well, you know, take that to the bank, right? It's kind of a lucky break almost. Because in today's day and age, if you can drum up publicity, there's no such thing as like negative publicity, right? Whatever happens to you, and it's real, right? If this really happens, you take that and you run with it and you say, huge band is trying to sue me for a song that I was inspired by for creating a song that was inspired by one of their songs. And sure, you're going to polarize people, but the whole idea is like, you're like in the case with my band, I polarized the band. I made half the band go like, oh, fuck that guy. And half the band was behind me and saying, no, this is good stuff. And he was just inspired, right? And you use that media to your advantage. You get that, you tell all the newspapers about this. You know, you give your side of the story and you spread it to all the blogs, everyone who will listen to the story. That giant band that doesn't even need the money is suing you because you wrote a song that tributes them, right? Now, yeah, does it suck that you're going against a band that you love? Sure. But in the end, after a few months, it's not really going to matter. And, you know, it's just a part of your life at that point. And you move on, you go on to the next thing, the next song. And by the time you get to the next song, you're going to have a bigger fan base than you did to begin with, because there's going to be people following your story. They're going to want to see, is that next song a ripoff of something else? Is it a tribute to something else? Is it, you know, wherever their mindset is coming from, they're going to be looking to you. You know, they say monetize your haters, and that's a good way to monetize your haters and give your fans more of what they want, right? So really that's all I have for today, is what I would say is my most controversial take yet, at least as far as when it comes to music. As far as this week on the podcast, the guest coming up, I'm not sure yet. I've tried booking a few people and things have fallen through and just not working out. We'll see. Hopefully I can get somebody and it works out before Tuesday gets here. If not, we might have a break in the week. Who knows? Maybe I'll do another solo podcast. But yeah. So, you know, go ahead and do the YouTube thing. You know, like the podcast if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. Go ahead and subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Or hell, if you hate it, unsubscribe. You know, it's like, it's fine. I like everyone who's here, and I like that you guys are here. But if you hate it and you don't want to be here, like, don't put yourself through that. You know, go find something that you like and something that gives you value. If this gives you value, great. That's what I want. I want to give you value for being here. Yeah, so as far as that, and then, you know, comment anything you'd like to comment. I'd love to answer some questions on this podcast. So if you have questions, go ahead and ask them. I'll answer them on the next podcast. And, you know, I might say a little something like, hey, look out for the next podcast for the answer. But I'll reply to you in the comments to let you know I did get your question. And yeah, share if you find this valuable and you think anybody else will find it valuable. Go ahead and hit that share button and share it with your social media. Share it with your friends. Send it in a DM, whatever you got to do. And until next time, be sound.